I'm J.W. Prather with IDC Devices. This is the IDC Institute. This is probably the most important video I've ever created. This video is going to explain to you why you're here on this journey with me. I think by the end of this video, you'll understand even more what I mean by that statement. Where to start? I believe the best place to start is always at the beginning. Since I've been doing this for more than 12 years, actually we should go way back to the beginning. I am a retired master electrician. I've studied electrical engineering, and I've been doing that kind of work since I was 17, 18 years old, even before I was learning from my uncles. In all of that time, I learned about energy, I learned about frequencies, all of this. So whenever I started really delving into the paranormal 12 years ago, everything I had, all that knowledge, all that experience was brought with me. In the very beginning, I had theories. Those theories have evolved over the years. But the equipment I make is based off of those theories. And it's why my equipment is so different than vastly anything out there. Whenever I started, I was looking at, if you go back and you look at Maxwell's equations, we're going all the way back to 1873. This is the most important thing that you need to remember as we could progress through this video. The first law of thermodynamics. Law. I didn't say theory. Law. I'm not going to read you the entire law, but what you need to remember is in that law, it says energy can neither be created nor destroyed. That is true. That is a law. It's what we've got. We've had it for a long time. Everything else comes off of that. Okay? Very important to remember. In my early time, trying to start getting into what I call supernatural mechanisms, I was studying quantum mechanics, quantum physics, theoretical physics, just recently biomedicine. I've looked at all of this. I've read, I've done my research. In all that time, I started coming up with theories. And if you've seen any of my videos over the years, you've seen how those theories have evolved. They've always started with that one law, the first law of thermodynamics. Energy can be neither created nor destroyed. My theory was, we've always been here. I didn't know how to explain it, but that's what my gut said. And we'll talk about the gut. But the gut said, we've always been here. We always will be here. So as I progressed along, I got into quantum entanglement, and I looked at photons and their duality, and I always had the problem of how do you beat the speed of light? Well, quantum entanglement's what I used to try to explain around beating the speed of light, getting outside of time travel. Not necessarily time travel, but where the fact that time no longer exists. We know that basically we have a hologram. And by that, I mean, we take in photons when we see. You're taking in photons right now. When I go and upload this video, photons will be how the information's carried from me to you. When you get it off the internet, photons is binary code. Basically, we have a brain, we have a computer, processes this binary code. We're always seeing, 0.3 of a second in the past. We're never seeing in real time because we have to take it in. Our brain has to process it. Now, if you're 3 years old and your daddy sends you out a half-inch socket, you got nothing in the memory banks to know what a half-inch socket is until you go and get one. You have to experience it. You have to get something in the memory banks. It's going to be important here shortly when that statement I just made. Your memory banks. So I was looking at, well, how is this work into the supernatural mechanisms? Well, I said, well, we got a soul. And the soul is made up of photons. And due to quantum entanglement, these photons can be anywhere and everywhere all at the same time. And they can be a positive or a negative. My equipment's based off of binary. And that's what I'm doing, is I'm detecting photons. Now, these theories have evolved, and I've got a lot of other videos on there about these theories. They've evolved over the years. Just here recently, I've got a project coming up, a very important experiment coming up. And a friend of mine, a medium, she reached out to me and she says, you need to see this. You need this. I was told that you need this. I said, okay, send it over. What I was sent was CIA documents that have been declassified. Now, we all know in Germany, back during the war, they were experimenting with a lot of things. After the war was over with, in 1958, Monroe, from the Monroe Institute, took over a lot of this documentation and created what's most important is the Monroe Tapes. Now, these Monroe Tapes were very much needed for meditation. We fast forward to 1983. A scientist, Bentoff, was tasked, well, Lieutenant Colonel McDonald was tasked with Bentoff, and the project was called the Gateway Experience. And the Gateway Experience, very briefly, was basically, they looked at meditation, transcendental meditation, and they seen that the limitations were mainly during meditation, we were using the right side of the brain and kind of shutting the left side of the brain down. What they determined was if you can sync the two together and bring both down into frequency of about 4 to 7 hertz, which coincidentally is about the time what your frequencies are when you wake up and when you go to sleep. You've seen some of my other videos of me saying that's why we experience things. It's called Hemisink. That's syncing both hemispheres of the brain. And what they determined was, with the proper amount of training and studying, using these Monroe Tapes, these subjects were able to sync their brains, and they were able to do a couple of things. They called it clicking out. Some of us call it out of body. They were also able to manifest, heal small tumors in their body, things like that. I'm going to have more on the Gateway Experience in another video. Just wanted you to know the basics of it. But here's the thing about the Gateway Experience is page 25 was left out. When these documents were declassified, everybody, especially your conspiracy theorists, said the CIA is holding out on page 25. CIA is insisting page 25 was never given to them. Fast forward till just recently, page 25 surfaced. What they determined, and the CEO released this page 25. They said the reason they didn't release it to the CIA back then, now everybody had to know they were going to be trying to create psychic soldiers, and I'm not sure that they didn't create psychic soldiers. But most of the participants were only able to do this 5, 10, or 15 minutes. And remember what I said about the 3-year-old going to get a socket? Some of the information they were bringing back when they clicked out was very fuzzy. Now, one of two things. Either they weren't supposed to bring this information back, or number two, they had nothing in their memory banks to base it against, so that's why the information was so choppy. But anyway, when they released page 25, they said that they thought, and we're going to talk about, and this is their words, that with the new woke society, they think that everybody was now ready for page 25. Page 25 was probably the most important page in the document. And we're going to talk about page 25 here shortly. So I'm going through the Gateway Experience, and I'm researching everything I can research of what Bentoff has done. And trying to explain, and it also, I have to say that a lot of what I had were theories. After this, there were no longer theories. I now have somebody that has, proven that these things are possible. But the one thing I didn't expect was an answer to my question that I was answering myself as quantum entanglement and the duality of photons. They came out with tachyons, which are theoretical particles. Tachyons are how these supernatural mechanisms were happening. By supernatural mechanisms, I mean, we're talking about God, we're talking about religion, we're talking about meditation, we're talking about healing yourself, we're talking about ghosts, spirits, all of this stuff, okay? Tachyons were theoretical particles that could move faster than the speed of light. Well, we know from classic physics that inertia, mass, keeps things from traveling faster than the speed of light. Tachyons can have little to no mass. With little to no mass, there's nothing to slow them down. They can travel faster than the speed of light. Meaning time and travel don't, time and space and dimensions, they don't restrain tachyons. I'm now looking at the psyche, the soul, and the psyche, the soul, is made up of tachyons. And it has always existed. Tachyons are only limited by the mass. If God adds mass to the tachyons, it slows down. He adds enough mass, say all the way up to where I'm at now, I slow way down. Well, why should we be slowing down? Well, God wants us to experience. And you're like, well, why is he talking about God? We're talking about science. All this is going to make sense. God, a God, wants the God, the higher power, wants us to experience. Whether we're alive for a week, a day, a year, or 100 years, we're supposed to experience. All the religions agree on on a couple of things. One, that there's life after death. And two, what's supposed to happen, happens. We all have a gut. Remember I was talking about earlier? Your gut is your psyche. It is your soul. It knows things that you don't know you know. So when we're looking at tachyons, if you add mass to them, they slow down. If you remove the mass, now remember, you can change the form of energy, but energy cannot be created nor destroyed. 1873, Maxwell's equations cannot be created nor destroyed. So I'm sitting here going, okay, I've been looking at photons all this time. I've been looking at action at a distance. I've been looking at quantum entanglement. Now I'm looking at tachyons. These are supposedly theoretical. But if they're not theoretical, if tachyons are real, and our psyche is made up of tachyons, and God, a superpower, adds mass to it, we slow down, we get experiences. When we die, the form changes, but the energy doesn't. The energy doesn't go anywhere. We move on to wherever it is we go. In the gateway experience, when I've looked at and done the equations with Planck's constant. I really hadn't looked at Planck's distance in my calculations. What they determined was that once you exceeded that, you entered the absolute. The absolute was anything and everything everywhere. You could go anywhere. Any dimension, any time, anywhere. If you release the psyche. To release the psyche, you need both sides of the brain to be in perfect harmony, 4 to 7 hertz. And you'd be able to click out, but only briefly. I believe that God has put these limitations on us. But remember, experiences. God wants us to have experiences. This is your experience. Remember what I said, that there's probably more than one reason why you're here and why you're watching this video? This is part of your experience. This is part of my experience. For years I've said, well, God doesn't want, if God wants me to not do this, he'll stop me from doing it. My religious family has said, oh, God don't want you doing that. If God didn't want me to do it, why am I so enthralled? And I always said my brain. I can't sleep. My brain, I'm always going. It's not my brain, it's my psyche. It's my soul. It's what I am. Everything, we're not human. Right now I'm a human. Right now you're a human. But there's other humanoids that have walked this earth before us. I'm sure they were made up of energy and they had a psyche. A human is just what I am right now. A human is my form right now. My meat skin is human. But before this, I don't know what I was. And after this, I don't know what I was. I just is. I-S. It just is. The psyche just is. I don't know what that is, and I don't think we're supposed to know until we leave here. Let's talk about page 25 for a second from the Gateway Experience. The reason page 25, they knew it was going to be so controversial is because what they determined was all religions are true. All religions are correct. Now take that in a second. Go back 30 years, 40 years. You go back thousands of years, for one, for whatever reason, all these religions have been at odds with each other. The Jews are fighting the Muslims. The Christians didn't like the Catholics. You got Church of God, Church of Christ, the Methodists, the Baptists. You got Hindus. You got all of these religions over thousands of years. Something or someone has kept them at odds. But yet this page 25 says they're all correct and they're all true. That there is a higher power, that we can be resurrected, that we can have past lives. There is a such thing as karma. And the list goes on and on and on and on. If you limit yourself, I very much respect Michio Kaku, but he limits himself as an atheist. Once you take out supernatural mechanisms, you've limited yourself on your research. You've limited yourself on your theoretical, as a theoretical physicist, you shouldn't be ruling anything out until you can rule it out, and you can't rule out religion, you can't rule out God, so why are you doing it? There's so many things that can be explained once you leave in supernatural mechanisms, and once you start at the very basics of the first law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Only the form can change. If our psyche is tachyons, which I believe they are, then if in this physical being we can free our mind, which then brings that frequency to where it's supposed to be, and those two sync, our psyche can leave. But only briefly. And then it comes back. But once we die, our psyche's free again. So we've had past lives. And during the Gateway Experience, a lot of these people viewed their past lives. When they entered, they clicked out to the absolute. So all of my theories I've had for years and years and years, everything's been culminated right now in a flash of light. I mean, I've been studying this for 12 years, and within a few weeks, a month max, all of my theories are just boom. They're right there, thrown right in my face. The Germans were working on it. The Monroe Institute was working on all of these, Bentoff, all of these. There's other ones out there that have been working on these kinds of things. Tachyons are real. If you believe that tachyons are real and you believe the first law of thermodynamics, then the only thing that changes is the form of the energy. Are you with me? The only thing that changes is the form of the energy. Right now, we're human beings and we're bound to this plane. Our tachyons have mass at the moment. There's so much more I have to talk to you guys about. But this is why you're joining me on this journey here at what I'm calling the IDC Institute. I am so pumped about the equipment that I'm building, and I'm focused mainly on ITC. That's the vehicle I'm using right now is ITC. But the reason my equipment is built the way it is, just because I've now gone from photons to tachyons. Tachyons was what I was missing. That was what I was missing in all of my theories. And these other theories have been proven. I got government documentation that shows that these scientists, who are a lot smarter than me, have proved so many of my theories. And I thought I was all alone. I'm making these videos and 89 people watch it on YouTube and I get a few likes. And I'm thinking, but I'm right. I know I'm right. And I know I'm right. And this is my experience. This is the experience that God wants me to have while I'm here. But I've always been here. You've always been here. And we always will be. Just our form's going to change. Now, I'll have other videos on how this relates to my equipment. But just remember binary. Everything is binary. And when people think of binary, they only think of computers, but everything's binary. Okay? So, dark matter, we now know that dark matter exists. Okay? The psyche does exist. It is what we are, and is as is, because I don't have a name for what we actually are. Right now, we use the name energy. We use the name psyche, soul. I don't know what we are, but human's just what we are right now. Thank you for watching my video. I will be making this video public later. I'm hoping this video will help me bring in more patrons for my Patreon. I know it's a lot to take in. That's why I can't do everything in one video. It's a lot to take in. You may have to watch this video a couple of times. I kind of bounced around for a few reasons. But you're here for a reason. We're all here for a reason. This is your reason you're here at my Patreon right now. You have a lot of other reasons for being. But the reason you're in my Patreon right now is because of what I'm talking about. So we all have reasons. We all have things we're supposed to experience. All right, well, thank you for watching my video. I'm going to end this, get it uploaded, and I'll have more videos coming. Thank you.